Greetings, everyone. Welcome, and thank you to the ASU+GSV team for hosting us. Pulling these things off is never easy, especially in 2021, but we really appreciate all the effort that's gone into this year's edition. And we're excited to be hosting this chat on paving and innovating alternative pathways. My name is John Farrar, and I'm the Director of Education at Google. Our team works with all the largest education providers in the world and acts as, I guess, the front door to what I would call the Google education ecosystem and the hundreds of Googlers that work on this space. That includes properties like Google Cloud, our various media properties, YouTube Learning, Google Classroom, and last, but most prominently featured in this talk, Grow with Google, and my friend Lisa Gevelber, who joins me today, ironically, from a college to a road trip with her daughters. Welcome, Lisa.
Hey, John. Thanks so much for letting me join you today.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you. Thrilled to have you. Why don't you do this? Why don't we do some introductions here? Why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll get rolling.
Sure. So I'm Lisa Gevelber, and I founded Grow with Google, which is Google's economic opportunity initiative. The whole idea is that the opportunities that are created by technology should truly be available to everyone, and that's really what Grow with Google is all about. It's about economic opportunity and mobility, and we've been doing Grow with Google since 2017, and already we have helped over 6 million Americans grow their skills, their careers, and we also help small businesses. So we say also grow their businesses. And it's been a true honor and one of my favorite parts of my career, actually, founding and running Grow with Google.
I can imagine it's quite a story, and I know we're going to hear more of it today. I think if you're attending this session or if you're coming to ASU+GSV in general, you're passionate about and care about creating access, as much access to everyone so they can maximize their future. I've met a lot of incredible people since working in the education space and heard really great stories. And listening to all of them, there's a common thread through all of them that seems like there's a personal history or a moment in time that pushed us into this space, something that changed them or something that we want to change. And I suppose I have my own version of this. I grew up with two public school teachers. They were the first college grads of their families. They later turned into college professors working at a public university and obsessed with the idea of making the system better for students, making it more achievable for them to achieve their goals. As an example, my father was one of the founding team members at Central Michigan when they were launching satellite campuses, Lisa, back in like the 90s. And the goal then is still the goal now. They were looking to push content that was previously held at Mount Pleasant into other places, the campus in Mount Pleasant. He and his peers would have loved to have had access to the technology today for content distribution. He just retired last summer, but ironically, he's been using the tech to see more patients than ever before. He's a clinical psychologist, so he's using Zoom and other mediums to get to people. In fact, Lisa, I think my mother probably deserves an honorary cert from you on IT because she's had to be in-house IT for my father. But the point is, he's has always been trying to change the lives of others and through learning. And that has him tapping into various new mediums, even when it's been a little frustrating as it's been for all of us. I bring this up as an example as it's kind of native passion that seems to envelope all of us in this space. And I think the changes that we've seen recently have us excited about what the future may hold here. And I know you've got kind of a similar personal story on your side.
Yeah, it's so funny how much we have in common, John, and not just that we're both from Michigan, and I know we're both Midwestern Knights, which I think is one of our best attributes. But similarly, my dad and his brother were the first people in their family to go to college. And my brothers and I put ourselves through college. So there's definitely no taking for granted education in our household either when I was growing up. And then my passion for economic mobility really started over 30 years ago. I actually helped run a jobs program, a summer jobs program in Chicago. It was called the Summer Jobs for Youth program. And we took, I think that summer we put 125 inner city high school students in Chicago into jobs. And really that was kind of my first personal hands-on experience besides my own work experience of really seeing what a difference it makes when you take a chance on a kid and give them their first job. And so my passion for economic mobility has been here for a long time, and it's been really fun to now bring it to life again through this Grow with Google work.
And we share those Midwestern roots. We also share that Chicago history. I humbly submit it's our best city in the country, but I may be biased. Well, the passion for the space runs deep. You just articulated yours, Lisa, and your history in that. But the passion only gets us so far. I think partnerships, as we've really been seeing, probably even more so in the last couple of years, are allowing for even more meaningful change. I know there have been a myriad of new networks formed really over the last 18 to 24 months, trying to unite and provide new solutions to the challenges of our time. You and I are actually a good example of that dynamic, Lisa. I think you and I have met at the beginning of 2020 and have been pretty tight ever since as we work to help one another deliver on the needs of students, job seekers, and be a better partner for education providers alike. The way we are doing this discussion actually personifies what I think is an outstanding opportunity and an exciting time, in that there's never been a time where valuable content, hopefully you deem this content to be valuable if you're watching today, can be consumed by anyone, anytime, regardless of geographic borders or the limits that previously held us in check, which can really change the trajectory for so many at scale. And I think Grow with Google is a great example of how this approach can make a difference. It's also a great example of how content created in one place can be shared, distributed, and included in other education approaches. When we first met Lisa's team, her Grow with Google team, she was working to expand the Google Cert program. Lisa, tell us a little bit more about the program itself and really about your decision to ramp it up and scale in the midst of all that's been going on over the last 24 months in the form of a pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this work is more important than ever, but it really is a good thing we had a little jump start. We launched Growth Google in 2017, and we've been doing various things to help job seekers and small businesses ever since. But one of the first things we did actually in January of 2018 is launch our first career certificate program. And that particular one was in IT support. And it came from a problem we had at Google, making sure that we were diversifying our own workforce and bringing in non-traditional talent. And so some of the folks that worked in our IT support program at Google created a training program. It's actually still the same program we use at Google to train our own people. And we launched it in January of 2018 already. And I think we have well more than 50,000 graduates in IT support just from that program alone. But I think the good news is, now is a time where we can use things that we've learned through the IT support certificate program to do even more, because 2/3 of Americans don't get a four-year college degree. That's about 80 million American workers who feel like great jobs are out of reach. And throw a global pandemic on top of that, and I think there's still approximately 9 million Americans without jobs, right? So that's a difficult thing. And then on top of that, 2/3 of jobs today actually require mid or high levels of digital skills. So that's an additional challenge for all these job seekers. And I think it's not just the job seekers who are noticing this. PwC did a study recently, and 4 out of 5 CEOs say that the lack of certain fundamental skills is actually an inhibitor to their growth. And about half of CEOs also say that retraining or reskilling is going to be one of the most important priorities that they're going to have, for their organization in order to keep the skills that they're going to need to keep their growth strong. So we see this real skills mismatch, and I think that's no surprise to anyone. I think that the thing is, what can we do about it? So we've done a bunch of consumer research. I know you have as well, John. And 54% of people who are looking to get new skills say that they prefer to do it online. And that's research data, but on top of that, we have our own search data, and we can see what people are doing with their queries when they come to Google. And we've seen over a 300% increase in queries for online courses and online learning. And I think the pandemic has made that really possible. And now there's such high quality content, as you said, John, online for these folks that'll really help them take the next step in their career. And the good news is, I think, since we've been doing this since 2018, we can see some of the results are really paying off. And some of the stuff that we're the most excited about is that 82% of our graduates say that within 6 months of doing the Google Career Certificate, they got a positive career and economic outcome. They got a raise, a new job, maybe a promotion. And it really is working for folks of all different backgrounds. 53% of our graduates are from backgrounds that are not traditional in tech. So female, minority, veteran. 59%, so almost 60% of them have no college degree. And that was really when we first started the Google Career Certificate program, the goal was help people without a college degree access in-demand, high-growth, well-paying jobs. And we're seeing that this program is working to do that. And it's really creating economic mobility. 46% of our graduates, when they start the program, are within the lowest income tertile in the country, but they're graduating into career fields that have on average an entry level salary of $69,000 a year or more. So we're seeing, real economic mobility happening with the folks who are doing the program. And that's why we started doubling down. And as you said, when the pandemic hit, we were able to launch 3 new career fields. So now, in addition to IT support, we have Google Career Certificates in data analytics, in user experience design, and in project management. And if you look across those 4 career fields where we have the career certificates from Google, there's 1.3 million open jobs in the US right now. And so hopefully, now that we have these certificates, we can help train folks of all backgrounds to get into those jobs. And we can really help bridge this education to work gap.
Yeah, I want to get back to that education to work gap topic in just a second here, but you touched on some stats in terms of students looking online more frequently, again, to access this content. 2 quick stats there. Our research is showing that the number of students likely to incorporate online into their path as we go forward and get hopefully to the other side of this pandemic is going to triple. Whether we're talking about hybrid or just going purely online. And the other thing that's been interesting, less and less geographic focus on search, right? So meaning like they're searching for the best programs regardless of where they are, which has been another interesting dynamic. But let's get back to the education to work gap topic for a moment. It's no secret students want more flexibility in how and what they learn, but increasingly that's equating to they need a stronger ROI. Our friends at Ipsos will tell us that 43% of students say a quality program is one that has high job placement rates. I know your data is similar in that regard. And I think what that stat shows is that students are no longer just trusting, hey, I'm going to go to University X, I'm going to take classes there, and then I'm going to wish for the best in terms of getting the job that they desire. It seems like we're on the other side of that. They want a more direct, intentional, clean line of sight to what the outcome is going to be. Want to be certified in areas that employers are hiring for. Your point, Lisa, 17 million employees in the US, I think, now in jobs that have a gap in skill set. To me, this underscores that ongoing training is just going to be a part of the path going forward beyond the degree. And it makes sense to me. Right? Employers want to know what students are learning and what competencies they can expect to graduate when they start as employee. And beyond that, just from a human standpoint, everyone wants a fast start, right? I mean, employees want to feel like they can contribute early. Certainly employers want to shrink the ramp time or the learning curve as much as possible. And I think we should be able to do that now. And that's where I go back to, like, how do we put these networks together to form some of these bridges? And that bridge maybe is formed by some innovation in curriculum design. 81%, this is from our research with BCG, 81% of business professionals believe that better aligning educational curriculum with job opening skills could resolve this mismatch that they feel. The challenge here, of course, is that skills are evolving all the time, and we're going to need to, as a result, remain agile. I think schools are going to have to do that and get more flexible and malleable as we go forward. But the good news is that the learning channels are expanding to create that agility. I think foster access, more affordability. We're seeing growth in alternative pathways like short courses, certificates, boot camps, particularly online. That includes your certs, but there are some coming from our friends at Facebook and Amazon, Microsoft. To me, this is an opportunity for schools to consider avenues for growth and expand their student base, help with ROI for students, and again, provide a much cleaner line of sight to investment and outcome. And that goes for degree programs and non-degree programs. So I guess, Lisa, as we talk about maybe combining some of these things, how are you seeing Grow with Google help to service that demand that students clearly are voicing at this point?
Yeah, it's so interesting to us too, John. We started Grow with Google and these career certificates. We were really focused on creating alternative pathways for people who weren't going to go to college for one reason or another. But what we ended up finding was that 41% of our graduates actually had a college degree, which is interesting, right? And if you think about what's really happening today, I think the New York Fed has some data that says that about 40% of college graduates today are actually underemployed, meaning they're in a job that doesn't even require a degree, right? And so I think there's additional data out there that shows that if you have a slow start to your career, especially in a recession, that slow start can actually affect you for 10 or even 15 years down the road. So I think even college graduates are looking for additional ways to make themselves ready for the job market and make themselves marketable. Strata has some data that shows that college graduates who complement their degree with a certificate are actually happier about their education and rate it more highly. And I think that's really interesting. So we started really digging into how are these career certificates like ours, adding extra value, or in your words, ROI. And it's funny, so we dug into some Burning Glass data, and Burning Glass data will show you that a lot of these career certificates, we looked at the top, some of the most common majors, especially liberal arts and humanities, and we looked at the Burning Glass data on if you took a career certificate like the Google Career Certificate and added on top for those majors, did it make a difference? And in fact, it really does. It makes these students more employable at higher wages, right? They get access to more jobs and make more money. So I take my own major as an example. So a million years ago, I was a psychology major. And Burning Glass data says that psychology majors today can expect to make on average about $39,000 a year. But if you complement your psychology degree with a data analytics certificate, you can expect to make about $60,000 a year, and hundreds of thousands more jobs will be available to you, right? So that's hugely valuable to psychology majors, but it's not just psych majors. We looked at history majors and English majors and sociology majors and all of those common degrees, and we see in the Burning Glass data a similar outcome. And so I think we're really seeing that make a difference. But one of the things that differentiates Google's career certificates from many of the other career certificates out there is that we have an entire hiring consortium, right? Because what we're talking about here when you talk about ROI is really getting into a great job at a great employer, and ideally one that's in a high growth field and it's well paying. And so we've created an employer consortium of about 140 top employers in the country who want to hire graduates of the Google Career Certificate. So we didn't just, put a certificate out there and train people for the job. We're helping break down barriers to employment, whether you have a degree or not, by building out this employer consortium. And as a matter of fact, we even really engaged those employers as we built the curriculum. So, some other companies often hire companies to build their certificates, but it's really not what we wanted to do at Google. What we did is take Google experts who have decades of years of experience in these fields, and we built the career certificates from the job back. We did job task assessments and skills matrices. We figured out what do you really need to know and be able to do to be great at this job? But then we didn't stop there with our own experts. We actually vetted the curriculum with all the top employers in the field, and we let them contribute to it. So Deloitte is a great example. For our data analytics curriculum, Deloitte shared with us some of the assessments they use as they consider candidates to test whether they were, capable of SQL and R and these other tools that Deloitte cares about. And so we built those assessments right into the Google Data Analytics certificate, right? And so now it's even a preferred credential for Deloitte's hiring. So I think really connecting this education to employment, and I think you used the word ROI, I think is really key. But what I think is great about all of this is that it means there's a lot of opportunities, not just for the students, but for educational institutions, right? And we see all kinds of educational institutions doing different things with our certificates. We have community colleges who obviously have a great connection to their local employers and workforce systems, who are offering our career certificates either not for credit, but as a career enhancement offering. We have some who are offering it actually for credit and building it, right into the curriculum. And then others who are just really focused kind of on adult education. And because our certificates have ACE accreditation and are recommended for 12 credits, we see a lot of community colleges offering 12 credits, even as credit for prior learning, or building it in and offering 12 credits for doing the course right there at the school. But I think what's even more exciting too is, and unexpected, is what four-year institutions are doing. And I know you have a lot to say about that, because that's really one of your areas of expertise, John. But it's exciting to us that a bunch of four-year institutions like Northeastern, like Purdue University Global, are granting 12 credits or more actually for the Google Career Certificate, and really embracing this idea that it's kind of a complement to the degree. And then my last, go for it.
No, go ahead, Lisa.
And lastly, I think the third thing that I've seen education institutions do, something like Johns Hopkins did, which is it kind of built on top of the Google Career Certificate. So we had a credential, a certificate in IT support, and Johns Hopkins have expertise, obviously, in healthcare. So they built a healthcare IT support module that you could stack on top of the Google Career Certificate. So you can get your basic IT support stuff from Google. And then when you want to learn healthcare specific IT, you can just take the Johns Hopkins certificate on top. So I really love this idea that these institutions are becoming, I think your word was flexible and adapting and really kind of solving for the student in all of these creative ways. So
that's why I always like these chats, Lisa. I always learn something from you and then also get inspired. And I'm glad you brought up Johns Hopkins and kind of the I guess, burgeoning partnerships that are forming with your group and various institutions. As I think it's an example of a trend that started now that I hope is going to be permanent. I guess I've always just believed there should be a more intentional bridge between an employer and education provider. And then again, curriculum can form that bridge. And I think we're starting to see that. And I think we're starting to see it because students are demanding it. Your stats around students who are getting the certs already having a degree, I think is evidence of that, of this demand. And our data shows today, universities are the students' number one choice for getting ongoing training because they trust the quality of academics, the support infrastructure, et cetera. That said, increasingly, students are more and more open, as you've evidenced, to being educated by standalone boot camps, certificates, or corporate America itself. I guess my point here is I think there's a window of time that exists right now for higher ed to lead the way and incorporate some market-specific based credentials alongside their curriculum. I think that's hopefully the start of what we're seeing. It's happening. You mentioned Purdue and Northeastern giving credit for the IT certs. And stacking to those degrees. And I think we're also seeing universities start to partner. There's actually been an explosion of partnerships. Our friends at Holland IQ have told us that there are 450 new OPM and bootcamp partnerships with universities globally now, which is a record high and up 50% over last year. And it's really being propelled by the vision of the leaders at these schools. 60% of universities, presidents say that they will update their portfolio to offer more short courses instead of full-time in-person classes. So again, reflective of the demand, and hopefully these partnerships can help us get there. We've been talking a lot about four-year institutions. Lisa, you mentioned community colleges earlier, but I would love to hear a little bit more about how you see Grow with Google evolving into non-four-year institutions, meaning community college and maybe even high schools. I know you've got some things going on at that level as well.
Yeah, one of the first things that we experimented with when we launched the IT support certificate back in 2018 is we started with a few community colleges because we knew that some folks would want a more cohort-based and instructor-led learning environment, right? People obviously learn in different ways, and while our certificate is online and anyone can do it, at their own pace, we thought there's going to be people who just want to be part of a group. And in fact, it's totally turned out to be true. I think by the end of this year, we expect we'll be in about 200 community colleges around the country. And we're finding that just to be a tremendous way that for folks who want to learn in those environments. And obviously, community colleges are excellent at having connections to the local employers as well. So I think it was about a year ago, I've lost track now, maybe a little more. We also announced that we were going to launch into career and technical high schools. And I think our goal, and I think we're still pretty much on track for this, would be to get to about 100 career and technical high schools by the end of this year. And so we're very excited about that. We're now even getting a lot of outreach from regular high schools who are interested in, again, either preparing their students who may not be planning to go to college directly for the best jobs in the workforce, but also really a lot of these schools recognize the kind of ability for dual credit because we have so many community colleges now engaged that the students in high school could take the career certificate and not only be meeting some of their high school requirements, but maybe get dual credit at a local community college. And I think that's also a new trend that we just are seeing a lot of with our certificate is high schools who want to offer them also for kids to advance either into an associate's or a local bachelor's degree program. So I think there's tons of promise here. And at the end of the day, I think what people want are a few things, right? If they're going to learn new skills, they want it to be fast and flexible. Our career certificates are not boot camps. They're really made for working Americans or full-time students, who just can't be all the time in a boot camp setting. So our students take the certificates online at their own pace, and over half of them finish in 3 months. Most people finish by about 6 months of part-time study. So really fast and flexible, working the way they want to work. And the second is really, as I said, preparing people actually for this job skills they need. And when I say that, I don't just mean like, how do you do IT support or how do you analyze some data? We're teaching, problem solving. We're teaching critical thinking. We're teaching a lot of communication skills because what we realize is if you're going to do data analysis, not only do you have to be able to visualize the data, you got to be able to communicate about your conclusions. And so we're teaching that as well. If you're a program manager doing our project management certificate, you got to really know how to lead a cross-functional team, right? So it's not just about using various project management software. It's about how do you get a cross-functional team to accomplish the goal and how do you keep them on track? Or if you're a UX designer, how do you really create customer empathy and user empathy and use that to make the best design? So actually, we're teaching a lot of things that I think people like to call soft skills, but it's really so much more than that. And then we're making sure that at the end, people have something to show for their work. So if you're in our user experience design program, you create a website to host your own portfolio because you've created projects along the way while you did the certificate that are great example projects for your own portfolio. So not only do you have your own portfolio, but you've built your own website to host your own portfolio. And then we're really just trying to make sure people can easily get into the job market. So we also provide industry-specific resume templates, so you can translate what you learned in the certificate directly into a resume that's appropriate for the field. We also give everyone who graduates 1 year of free interview training through Big Interview, which I think is about a $900 value. So teaching you kind of the skills you need directly for the job, also these general skills that you kind of need for any job, and then really helping you with the job search process by making sure that you know how to talk about and write about the skills that you've learned and that you get a chance to really practice them. So I think this kind of end-to-end teaching and learning is really kind of key to it all.
Yeah, and I think that's my point from earlier. And I like what you said in terms of building from the job back, in terms of how you've created these. By the way, like I know you just launched in 18. That's it's a remarkable progress in less than 3 years. But building from the job back, I really feel like that's a mindset that we all would be well served to incorporate as we go forward. As we're seeing that demand from students are expecting like us to say like, all right, what are the skills I'm going to get for my investment here? And the best path forward, I think, to resolve these longstanding inequities that because we can distribute this content now freely and anywhere, that these inequities not only hurt workers, but also employers who want to diversify their workforce with highly qualified non-traditional talent. I think we're starting to see that this is a way to resolve some of those dynamics as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, our North Star is really to create a more equitable and inclusive job market. And I think so many employers actually want that, but there's always been all these barriers in the way. And it's funny, when we first started this work, we were talking to the heads of talent acquisition. That's what they're called, the people who run recruiting, in the companies. And one of the things they told us actually was, well, of course we want to hire people without college degrees, but we have this issue. We'll write in the job rec, degree, college degree or equivalent. Like we want to signal that we're open to other options. But the problem the recruiter has is until now, there's never been equivalent. There's never been something where someone could bring and show that they really know their stuff and they're ready for this job, right? And so I think, we are trying to help solve this kind of equivalent problem that the recruiters had. And, it's one of the important things about this. And I think you said the word partnerships earlier, and I want to reinforce that. We talked a little bit about the educational partnerships, and I talked a little bit about employer partnerships, but we're also working with governments. We already have partnerships with 33 workforce boards around the country. And we have just seen so much success already. Sacramento is a great example. They put some CARES Act dollars to work and worked with a nonprofit called Merit America and brought the Google Career Certificates to learners in Sacramento through Merit America. And 100% of the people who went through that program and were looking for a job actually got a job using Google IT support certificate and got a job in IT support. And I think it's a great example of workforce boards getting involved, leveraging CARES Act dollars, and then bringing in local nonprofits who know how to teach these things and lead people through them. So really, it's another terrific example of how it takes all of us, right? We can't just train people for the job. We need every part of the ecosystem to play its role.
Yeah. Another great example, the network and branching out. And I know one of the things you've always told me is like, look, I just want to get this content in the hands of as many people as I can. Help me do that. And we've played a small part in that, but it's fun to see where this has gone again in a short amount of time. But I know we're running out of steam here in terms of the clock, Lisa. I guess I'll just summarize it this way. And listening to you, it seems like we're kind of defining a new value exchange that has maybe 3 parts to it. We want to support educational institutions, grow, help them be part of the go forward solution, help employers access this amazing talent that exists in this country. And if we do those things, it ultimately is going to help people get their path to a better career, which will help their families and by proxy their communities. I want to thank you for joining me. Thanks for letting us share our enthusiasm for this. We're running out of time. We originally planned to take Q&A, but if you need to reach us, it's Gevelber at google.com and Farrar at google.com. Lisa, I know you've got a couple other ways that people can reach out to you in terms of getting more information from you and your team about how to access certs and what else can be done on your front.
Yeah, so please, if you're interested in hearing more, the website is grow.google/certificates. Whether you're an employer or an educational institution, you can find information there. I think for educational institutions, it's grow.google/certificates-edu. Or as John said, you can also use email, careercertificates@google.com, or reach out to me directly. It's just my last name at Google, so Gevelber@google.com. We'd love to hear from you. And John, thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of the road trip, Lisa.
Thanks so much. It's weird traveling again, I must say.